Welcome to Meet the People's Press. This is the 000 episode, and the next time we'll be on will be 15 minutes off after Meet the Press, which will be 9:15 Pacific time this Sunday. We're also the website. I don't know if it'll be up by then, but it's meetthepeoplespress.com. You can also go to podcastershome.com. Without further ado, let me introduce who's in here today. Rick Feinberg from Reno, Nevada is a constitutional Republican. He's also a former attorney. I think he came from California, right?
Right.
Migrated over here into the great state of Reno, or great state of Nevada. Nick Hernandez, Dr. Nicholas Hernandez, has got his honorary doctorate from Chapman. He's an artist in Laguna Beach. He's also a progressive Democrat and part of the Central Committee, I believe, down in that part of the world in Orange County. Is that correct? And the Democrats with Laguna?
Yes, and I'm on the board of directors of the Laguna Beach Democratic Club.
Okay. And, of course, we've got the famous Jonathan Dinwood from WP Tonic and that great SaaS developer who's from England and who calls himself a socialist, what is it, Christian socialist? Did I get that right?
I call myself a democratic libertarian socialist.
Okay, Jonathan, your voice is okay, but
I'm confused.
When you come on this again, we like to use the mics. So, without further ado, Rick, you're one of the key members, and Jonathan, you're coming on as a guest right now. And go ahead, and we want to find out, what do we agree on? We'll start with you, Rick. What do you think we agree on towards the left and right? And let me give you an example. I think the United States is really fed up with the middle, and I believe that most of the United States thinks the middle is controlled by the same people, special interests.
I tend to agree with that. As much as the differences between the left and right and Democrats and Republicans are touted, the fact remains that a lot of frustration on the right is that the leadership doesn't appear to be doing much different than what the administration is doing right now. There's virtually no opposition from the loyal opposition party. There have been fewer vetoes by the president, President Obama, of any legislation than any other Republican administration has vetoed bills coming out of Congress. So what that tells me is that Congress isn't sending the president any kind of bills that he's going to have any problem with or any objection to. And so, in effect, we are enabling the progressive agenda of the present administration. So there isn't much of a difference as far as I'm concerned.
I got to unmute. Jonathan's laughing here. So, okay. He's getting a little background now. He's just so folks know. So I manage this. I turn that off so he doesn't get it. Next, same question. What do we commonly agree on?
Well, Rick just said several things that I actually disagree with. And so we're going to chat about what we agree with. Like I had said earlier, I think we're all loyal Americans, and I think we all want the best, not only for the middle class, but for all classes, the lower class, the upper class. I think all Americans deserve good governance. I think we'd all agree with that.
I agree.
Yeah, good governments. So that's sort of where we agree. What other things might we agree on within politics? Oh, there's Jonathan.
If I may, that right now our government is one of the most dysfunctional stages I've ever seen our government. There's obstructionist things coming from everywhere at everybody. I mean, we see so little consensus and such little progress being made anywhere. Everything seems to be stuck in a gridlock of and not enough positive governance is happening as far as I can see.
So, Jonathan, what do you think we might agree on? Jonathan is our guest on today on the 000 show.
You
yep, loud.
To me,
yep.
Bill?
You're coming across fine.
So I think the echoes of the 1930s are quite clear at the present moment. I think we're facing what is called inverted dictatorship. I think personal liberty has been challenged by the state and by large corporations that have congealed themselves into a quite ugly kind of quasi-fascist dictatorship. Basically, you can vote for whatever you like, but you just get exactly the same. And that's what I would classify the situation in the US and also in the UK as well.
You know, that's interesting. That sort of fits into my philosophy is the right and the left in the middle are controlled by the same people. Now, we're going to be talking about Meet the Press on Sunday, but let's go back and look at the presidential elections for our next look. Nick, I know you're supporting Bernie Sanders. Why do you think he's doing so well?
Well, he has he's stayed the course since he was 17 years old. He's been following the same agenda, working for the working man and woman. He's been working towards social justice. And when you talk about the term socialism, to me, that just means one thing: striving for social justice on all levels, from the top to the middle to the bottom, all levels. It's social justice. And that's what I'm striving for. And I see that that's what Senator Sanders is working for.
Well, yeah, what I see, though, too, and I'll back you up, I don't think there's anybody who criticizes that he's not saying what he believes in right now. To come out as a socialist and Democrat socialist is very, very straightforward. He's not trying to hide it at all. So he's off on one side, but he's definitely not in that middle group of Republicans and Democrats, which are controlling government right now, per se. Rick, what do you think?
Well, I certainly do think Bernie Sanders is consistent. I do think he's a socialist, and that's the problem. Because if historically, and when I say historically, we don't really have to even look that far back. We could go back to Roanoke, Virginia, and we can go back to the Soviet Union or any other social democratic area. It just doesn't work. We do have, if socialism in fact meant due process, equal protection is guaranteed by the Constitution, equal application of the law, I think that's something we could all agree upon, but it's not occurring. And the mechanism of socialism, in order to enforce their concepts of equality and economic redistribution, is where the problem really is. I tend to be a free market kind of guy and believe that the smaller government is, the better it is, and that solutions really originate from the individual rather than from a top-down approach.
Hey, for our last question today to wrap it up, and this is just the 000 beforehand. I hope everyone comes back on Sunday morning at 9:15 as we wrap this up. I'll ask all three of you. How do you think the press is covering the presidential elections? We'll start with you, Jonathan.
Well, they're not really, are they? Because there's only 6 conglomerate corporate organisations that control almost 95% of all media in the US, and a similar situation will be found. Actually, the situation in the UK is even worse, where over 70% of the media is controlled by the BBC, which is only a mouthpiece of the government that is in power at the present moment. In the US, most of the media is owned by large corporations, and basically any real challenge to corporation interest isn't talked about.
Okay. Yeah, that's the feeling I think a lot of people do have right now with the press and the media. There are some differences. Rick, we're going to go around to your next. Well, Jonathan, go back, first of all. Throw in there, too, how you think social media is going to affect communications.
Well, there are voices on the libertarian right that have the guts to speak out against the gross situation that increasing amounts of Americans rely on the state for handouts rather than the state and society finding them proper work at a reasonable level, which will allow themselves to house themselves, feed their families, and have a decent life in a country that's one of the richest in the world. Basically, if this situation continues, it will lead to violent consequences. Anybody that's got any brains between their ears can see that this situation can't continue for much longer. Right. But how it's going to turn out and what consequences, nobody can tell you.
Okay, Rick, we'll go on next with those two questions: social media and the press.
I think your question would, how's the press covering the presidential election process? I don't think they're doing a very good job, and I think that people observing the debates, both Democrat and Republican, believe that they're being cheated. Rather than really getting into the nitty-gritty and substance of the issues that are very important and I believe represent an existential threat to the United States. Those questions aren't even coming up. On the Republican side, they seem more interested in the complete distraction of seeing who can out-insult who and who can attack who without talking about the economy or ISIS or foreign affairs or anything like that, or Hillary Clinton's breach of security through her email. So it's all distraction. I absolutely agree with Jonathan. Our media is being controlled, and the information we're receiving is being filtered to an extent that it's not doing any justice for us all.
Nick, we'll lead. Oh, and social media. We can go back on social media. But Nick, that's a perfect segue. You and Bernie Sanders. Bernie Sanders is getting huge crowds, but all the national TV channels are saying he's behind. He's not polling. What's going on?
Well, for one example, about a month and a half ago, I went to the Sports Arena in LA and got there 2 hours earlier, and there was already a line all the way around the Sports Arena. And I got lucky and got in fairly quickly, but there were 17,500 people, which is the capacity of the Sports Arena, and there were 10,000 people outside, and there was virtually no media coverage, none. And if you shift it to something more current, during the debate, every focus group I saw, and I saw polls from Fox News, CNN, Times, Warner, everything, and every poll had Bernie winning at least by 60 to upwards to 75%. And yet, CNN and the New York Times, they all said that Hillary won by a landslide, and that's not accurate. But they are also the corporation. They're her seventh largest donors, and of course, these six corporations that do control 90% of the media are going to express their agendas. I don't think that fairness is a part of, or accuracy is really hardly any of the media, except for the social media, is interested in the truth. They're interested in propagating their agendas and forwarding their agendas. And so the press is incredibly biased. And I think both sides, the left and the right, feel cheated by the press. And, one of the issues that Bernie has been saying forever with the media is, I don't want to go into character assassination. I'm not going to be calling names. Let's talk about the issues, just like what Rich said. We need more time at the real issues and going over the facts about what is happening in our culture and in our society.
Very good. So in closing, I'm getting a little bit of feedback, but I think no one can really hear it. I've had this happen before, unless we have an open loop somewhere. But in closing, this is a good start for 00. We all need to come on around 9 o'clock. We're going to go live at 9:15, start playing with it on Sunday morning. Go ahead and watch Meet the Press. Everyone is welcome to come back. The name of the next show will be 001 Meet the People's Press. So without further ado, I'm going to go ahead and stop the recording.
I refute some in the more conservative right wing that classifies large groups of people as being lazy. I think helplessness and dependence on the state is taught people. And I saw this cancer in Britain where so-called conservative elements thought it was it's written that they closed down a lot, vast sectors of the British industry, shipped it to the Far East, and put most of the population in those areas on long-term benefits with no hope of ever getting any consistent employment again. And this cancer has been established in this country as well. And conservative elements that are linked to corporate greed, to Wall Street, to the worst criminal elements in corporate society, certain right-wing elements of the Republican Party are just bought. And so also, Hillary Clinton, she is a corrupt politician. Her husband was corrupt, so was she. She's not fit for any position in higher office in America. She's a criminal at best, but she's a white-collar criminal, so she hasn't gone to prison. That's the only, and her connections keep her out of prison.
Hey, Nick,
But
go ahead. We got to finish tying it up. I actually put this back on the record. What you hear what he just said about Hillary Clinton?
Yes, I did.
What do you think of that?
Well, I have mixed feelings about it. First of all, I think
you got some artwork that you given the Clintons.
Yeah, well, it was commissioned by the Barbara Boxer family, and I'm connected with them through marriage. And if you look on my Facebook page, you'll see a picture with Hillary with her arm around me, and I am voting for Bernie. It's a cultural situation. Getting a piece into the White House and into the hands of the first family is. I'm proud of that. But I don't back her at this point in time as a candidate, and I'm not going to, denigrate her. I politicians by definition, so much of the time are corrupt. John Kennedy said one time, sometimes you have the choice between horrible and worse. And so you have to make it. Sometimes they have to make choices that nobody's going to agree with, or one side, they're going to think that it's horrible. Their next decision, the other side's going to think they're horrible. And it's a game of compromising that they have to play. And it's a tough game. So as far as her being corrupt, I don't know that she's corrupt. I don't know that she isn't, but I know that she's made decisions that have really upset both sides.
Okay.
And so has Obama.
Yeah.
And
hey, this is
I just want to say, Nick, I do understand your position, but when you look at the track record, when they were in positions of power in Arkansas, and when you delve in to the volume and amount of accusations that have been placed on them, and when you delve into it and see how they corrupted Arkansas, how they are pure poison.
Well,
I like Jonathan. You tell it as it is.
They are pure political poison. And if you sip from their cup, you will become poison.
Yeah, but there's another thing. The term that you use that I think is key is corruption, or excuse me, accusations. Now there's accusations that Obama is a Muslim, that he wasn't born in this country. There are accusations every which way from both sides, and we have to really figure out what the truth is, and it's not always apparent. And I really hesitate to judge unless I know the facts. And people can throw up all sorts of accusations, and I don't know. When I met Hillary, for instance, I've met her a couple of different times. She was the most pleasant woman to me. And that's all I can say. Bill Clinton, when he was a president, he threw the progressives a few bones and then sold us down the river with NAFTA. And right now, Obama has thrown the progressives some bones, and he's going to sell us down the river with TPP. So how do you judge?
Well, see, Rick, I think you agree with that, don't you? You don't like the TPP, do you?
Not at all.
So you guys are great. That's mutual there.
Well, there's a number of things that I don't like about the TPP, which I think it shares in common with other programs and with the process involved in the implementation of those other programs, including the secret side of things, where our legislators and lawmakers haven't been permitted to actually see the controlling documents. And yet they're being asked to make decisions based upon that lack of empirical knowledge.
Well, we're being told, I think the boss is saying that we have to shut down. This is an ad hoc 00 meeting. So
I just want to say one quick thing, Bill. My scathing comments are not just linked to certain elements of the Democratic Party. I'm going to say something about the Republican Party as well. Basically the Bush, to have the audacity to put another Bush in front of the American people for voting is such an insult. The last Bush basically was an intellectual idiot, which was basically, got America involved in 2 wars. One of those wars I consider to be an act of criminality in its own way. And basically him and his cronies totally lied to the American people. It's just disastrous. And then to allow Trump, who has a history of worse corruption than even the Clintons, a man that couldn't even walk straight, and put him in front of the man's a clown. It just shows you that anybody can make a load of money dependent on their criminality. It's appalling. This is a party that of Lincoln, and for it to get into this situation is appalling. Now, I just wonder what Eisenhower or Lincoln would say about the mess that the Republican Party's in,
I would say both the Republicans and the Democrats, especially the in control in the middle, are in trouble right now, period. I think it's clear from this discussion. Hey, let's knock this off. Rick, thank you. Jonathan, Nicholas, thank you. And we're going to pause it.
Thanks, fellas. It's been great.
Hey, bye, Susie.
Bye,
Susie. Okay, I'm going back on. Just for everyone, remind, if you want to go to podcastershome.com and you'll be able to catch this show. Also, go to newmediagold.com. In the section, you'll be able to catch this. So that's where the replay. See you on Sunday.
Great.
Live at 9:15.
Looking forward to it.